I'm going to give you a hard truth. If everyone around you is clapping, but no one is checking you, you're not being supported, you're being enabled. Growth is not a personality trait, it's a decision. And if you're not actively choosing it, you're unconsciously avoiding it. Ask yourself, have I built a life that helps me evolve or one that keeps me from having to? Do I welcome people in who hold me accountable, or do I quietly avoid them? Have I made growth a lifestyle or just an aesthetic? The biggest risk isn't failing, it's staying the same. And you can't control the past, but you can absolutely decide the future. Welcome to the Upgrade with Elle. Okay, so I've been thinking about how easy it is to build a life that looks good on the outside. One that gets applause and checks all the boxes and keeps things just moving smoothly. But secretly, it avoids the very thing that would make you whole. Because growth, it's quiet, it's inconvenient, and it rarely comes with an audience, which means it also very rarely comes with validation. Okay. In fact, most of the things that you would do while growing, you don't get celebrated for. Not in the moment. No one claps when you set new boundaries. No one cheers you on when you admit that you were wrong about something. Nobody applauds you for doing the healing work that you do in private. It's not loud. It's not glamorous. And it damn sure isn't fun. Okay. But that's what makes it real. Like, that's what makes it an authentic journey. And somewhere along the way, most people have to choose. Do I keep curating the life that looks good, or do I do the work to build a life that actually feels right? That's a difference. And that's like where there's this quiet split. It's not loud, it's not obvious, but it's really deep. There's a line. And on either side of that are two different kinds of people. Let's talk about the difference most people never slow down enough to see, because it really isn't loud and obvious. But once you do see it, you can't really unsee it. There are people who walk around in this life and who are very open. They're open to being stretched. They're open to being called out in love. They're open to hard truths and people saying to them, you're not wrong for where you've been, but you just can't stay here. And then there are people who build their entire lives to protect them from ever hearing that truth. Not just habits, I'm saying like full-blown lifestyles, carefully curated careers, friend groups who never challenge them, partners who co-sign their delusions and their decisions because they're so afraid of losing that relationship. They have social media timelines and algorithms that continue to affirm their behaviors, but never check it. And we all know these two different types of people. We may never put them in these categories, but they do exist and we all know them. These people call that peace, but it's not peace, it's protection. It's a life protecting them from accountability, not a life that's rooted in growth. And the thing is, growth-minded people don't see accountability as a personal attack. They actually see it as love. They don't take offense to every little thing that is said to them. They actually want to do better. They desire to do better, even when it's uncomfortable. They lean into those moments. They reflect. They recalibrate. And it's not that these individuals enjoy discomfort. No one does. But they have a tolerance for it, and they know that it's the only place for real transformation. Growth-minded people would rather be challenged into transformation than celebrated into stagnation. Really think about that, because comfort is the sneakiest little trap there is. It feels safe, it looks stable, but in reality, it's a beautifully disguised holding pattern. And what I've seen and what I've lived is that some people don't even realize how much they're avoiding themselves. Because on the surface, everything looks fine. They're not crashing out. They're not spiraling. They're not visibly self-sabotaging. They're just stuck. Quietly, slowly, comfortably stuck. And some people aren't stuck because they lack potential. They're actually stuck because they're addicted to comfort and they're allergic to truth. And I know that might sound funny, but it's the truth. So you really have to ask yourself, have I surrounded myself with people who challenge me? Do I make space for hard feedback and tough conversations without immediately getting defensive? Am I open to change? Or am I committed to protecting the identity I've always known? Because this is the moment where everything shifts. Not when you get a new job, not when you have a new relationship that seems to be working out, not when life finally starts looking better. The shift starts when you can look at your life and honestly say, I want more than just applause. I want alignment, and I want to be the best version of myself. And now here's where it gets a little bit slippery, because a lot of people aren't walking around saying, I don't want to grow, or I want to avoid accountability. People aren't just walking around saying that. No, they've dressed it up. They've spiritualized it. They've called it protecting my peace. We've all heard that before. They've slapped a quote on it and made it aesthetic, okay? People are becoming so familiar with growth language that they use it without actually going through it. But when you strip all of that down, what they're really doing is avoiding discomfort. They're avoiding truth. They're avoiding anything that might challenge the version of themselves that they're so comfortable performing. And they only want people around them that are going to say, you're doing amazing and you're glowing. You look great. You're so strong. Even when they're making choices that are keeping them stuck. I'm going to give you a hard truth. If everyone around you is clapping, but no one is checking you, you're not being supported. You're being enabled. And look, it's not about being harsh. It's about surrounding yourself with people who are good for you, not people who are tearing you down. Not everything that you're doing is wrong, okay? But it's about having people who love you enough to tell you the truth when you need to be told the truth, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's hard, especially when it's inconvenient and it's hard. But for a lot of people, they've replaced that surface level positivity, no conflict, no correction, just vibes type of friendships and relationships in their lives, and these do not serve them. And then they wonder why they're not growing. That's not love. Having people in your life that are not willing to be honest with you about how you're really showing up and what you're doing, that's not love. That's performance. And those people, they're not friends. They're actually playing a role in your masterfully curated stage play. You cast those people for comfort. You keep them around you because they'll never challenge your script. And deep down, you know if they ever told you something that was true and hard to hear, that you would write them out. They would no longer be in your play. So you have to ask yourself, are you surrounding yourself with people who tell you what you want to hear all the time? Who are co-signing your every decision, even the bad ones? The people who are telling you that you're good when you're really not. Because there's a difference. And that difference is usually the line between repeating the same cycles or finally breaking them. What kind of people do you have around you? And if you've never had tough conversations about yourself with close friends, then you really have to ask yourself, are these people really in my best interest? But here's the part that a lot of people don't want to admit. Not everybody actually wants growth, okay? And some people want to look like they're growing. They want to sound deep. They want to repost all the growth quotes and use all the growth language. They want to talk about alignment and boundaries and doing the work, but they don't really want to do the work. They don't really want the hard truths, because the reality is the hard truths and doing the work, it's ugly, and sometimes it's lonely, and sometimes it costs you the version of yourself that you were so comfortable with. And you have to really think through, am I ready to take on all of this feedback, all of the consequences. Not everybody's ready for that. Some people want the aesthetic, but they don't want the reality of what it really is. Listen, you can buy all the crystals you want. You can read the books. You can go to the retreats. But if you don't sit with your own truth in silence, that's not growth. That's escapism dressed up in self-care. Okay? And let me be real with you. Some people don't want feedback. They don't want reflection. They want applause. They want validation. They want to be right. They want to feel seen, but they don't want to be called higher. You know why? Because higher means friction. Higher means discomfort. Higher means effort. Higher means ownership. And when you start choosing growth for real, you will feel the shift internally. And people will fall off naturally. They just will. You'll go through seasons of feeling misunderstood. You'll go through moments of feeling alone. And it's okay. It's not because you're doing something wrong, but it's because you're not the person you were before. And that version of you kept other people's comfort intact. And now you're challenging that dynamic. The moment you choose growth is the moment you will outgrow the people who were only attached to your comfort. And I don't want you to shy away from it because of that fact. I just want you to know, and you've got to be okay with that, because growth isn't always community friendly, okay? Sometimes it's just you and the mirror and the decision to keep going. So if you've been wondering why certain people don't get you anymore, why it feels like the deeper you go, the harder it gets to connect with certain individuals, that's because not everyone wants you to grow, and that's okay. This is not a bad thing. People just are where they are, but your life has to be built in truth, not just belonging. And if it ever comes down to you needing to make the choice between being liked and being whole, choose wholeness every single time. I hope that you do. So why does this even matter, right? Like, why does it matter that there are these two different types of people? Why does it matter who's growth-minded and who's kind of cool being, where they're at? Because if you're not careful, you'll spend years blaming other people for being stuck, when the truth is you built a life that's keeping you there. You built that life. And it wasn't on purpose. People aren't making these decisions with bad intentions. It's subtle. These are quiet decisions. It's choosing comfort over and over and over being challenged. It's praising yourself over considering what progress you're making. It's support over substance, right? And I'm saying this with love, but if you don't stop and take inventory, you'll end up 5 years from now in the same patterns, having the same conversations with the same people, just older and more exhausted. Growth is not a personality trait. It's a decision. And if you're not actively choosing it, you're unconsciously avoiding it. If you're not actively choosing it, you're unconsciously avoiding it. Because a lot of people say that they're growing, but what they're really doing is they're hiding in routines that don't challenge them. They don't make them think about themselves or their decisions differently. They're running on the same schedule with the same friend group and the same behaviors and the same self-talk and the same excuses. And it's on repeat. And it feels safe, but none of it is pushing them forward. And none of it is pushing you forward. You can't grow inside of a life that was built to protect you and who you used to be. So take a second and just be honest with yourself and ask yourself, have I built a life that helps me evolve or one that keeps me from having to? Do I welcome people in who hold me accountable, or do I quietly avoid them? Have I made growth a lifestyle or just an aesthetic? And in this day and age, it's very easy to pretend that you're into growth. But when you look in the mirror, you can't avoid the truth in that answer. And at some point, your comfort zone starts to look like self-betrayal, and your desire to be unbothered, it becomes the very thing that keeps you unchanged. And this matters because you don't get to the life you really want by staying the same. You get there by telling yourself the truth, by being willing to let go of who you were so that you can fully step into who you're becoming. And that version of you, that is the version that you have to always strive for, the one that you're becoming. Here's what I want to leave you with. Real growth doesn't just require clarity, it requires courage. You can know that you want to grow, but you have to have the courage to step into it. Because once you know better, you can't pretend not to. And once you've seen the patterns, you can't unsee them. Once you've heard this episode, you have a choice to make. And you can either keep performing the version of you that makes people comfortable and keeps you comfortable, or you can start building the version of you that makes you proud and allows you to truly step into the best version of yourself. But you can't do both. You cannot. And your life won't bear the fruit of that best version of you until you do the work. Because growth isn't just about affirmations and vision boards. It's about decisions. It's about alignment. It's about ownership and about telling yourself the truth even when it's inconvenient or it's hard. And that starts with one simple question. What have I been protecting that's actually been preventing me? What if the only thing standing between you and the version of you that's fully free is the lie you keep calling your truth? You don't need a life overhaul today, okay? Rest assured, everything's not going to be fixed right now. But you do need to start to get honest with yourself about your patterns, about your people, and about your part in it. Because nothing changes until you do. And your upgrade is waiting on the other side of your honesty. So stop settling for that version of your life that's palatable, but not powerful. Stop building your identity around comfort and calling it peace. Stop asking to be celebrated when what you really need is to be challenged. The people you're meant to impact, they're not waiting on you to be perfect. So don't avoid this journey out of fear for not being able to do it right. These people are waiting on you to be aligned. And this is your reminder. You don't have to have it all figured out. Not today, not tomorrow. It's okay. You just have to be willing to stop lying to yourself about the things that you already know. The biggest risk isn't failing. It's staying the same. And you can't control the past, but you can absolutely decide the future. So upgrade accordingly.